Hello everyone, we are going to be going over some lower extremity range exercises today. We have our beautiful models here and we're going to be really focusing on the form for both the patient but also the caregiver, making sure that our bodies are in safe positions, very important. So range of motion is really helpful to maintain normal motion in your joints. So we're not doing this with a focus on restoring function in a paralyzed muscle, but we're trying to prevent complications and contractures. So we want to make sure Liz here is seated on a stool to start, and if you're in a hospital bed or a bed where you can change the height or position of it, really make sure that the caregiver is at waist level to be able to use good body mechanics throughout each exercise. These range of motion exercises should be done at least once a day, and especially while you're home. And you can do this, in the morning, at night. A lot of times we'll do them in the bed, trying to achieve full range of motion until you feel a slight stretch. Depending on your injury or diagnosis, you might not necessarily feel a stretch, maybe as much as others. Alright, so some safety considerations for these stretching. We don't want to force any movements. We're going to be moving slowly and gently, and we're going to stop the movement before the stretch becomes painful. So the first stretch we're going to start with starts down at the toes. We see Liz is seated on a chair, so she's nice and comfortable. And with one hand, she's going to stabilize Matt's foot just below the toes. And so with the other hand, you're going to gently move the toes forward and backward. Oftentimes we do this at least 10 times in each direction, but if it feels good and you have the time, feel free to do more repetitions. This is just at the toes, but you can see as we're going to go up, we're going to do the ankles and the knees and the hips, so we're starting small here. Okay, after this we're going to transition into ankle rotations. So you're going to place one hand on the shin to stabilize the leg, and you're going to hold the ball of the foot with the other hand and turn the foot clockwise and counterclockwise. Again, doing this at least 10 times. And for some setups at home, it might be more helpful to have the leg hanging off of the end of your bed. These are also possible, some of them seated in your chairs too, but just making sure that everybody's bodies is in a nice, safe, and comfortable position. It looks wonderful. Great job, Liz. So now we're going to move into some calf stretching. So it's your Achilles tendon, your heel cord. You probably have heard different names for it, but we're going to cup the heel in the palm of your hand, and then you're going to place the forearm against the ball of the foot. So we can use the forearm to push the ball of the foot towards the knee. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. This is kind of how we recommend it because it's not just the toes. We got to get that whole foot basically perpendicular to the ceiling. So you can see how ankle's nice and stabilized, but it's not just the toes moving. You can also cup like the bottom of the heel and use your forearm. Are you feeling the stretch there, Matt?
Yes.
So we're holding this. This is honestly one of the biggest stretches that we need to make sure that we're doing every single day. We want to hold it for at least 30 seconds. If you feel like you're in a good position, you can do it up to 60 seconds, repeating it 3 to 5 times. We need to do it on both ankles, but if you feel as if one ankle is tighter than the other, or one side of your body's been more affected by your diagnosis, definitely start there first. All right, now we're going to switch into some hip and knee flexion. So Liz, you're going to cradle the leg by placing one hand under the knee while it's bent, and the other hand you're going to grasp the heel for stabilization. You're going to lift the knee and bend it towards the chest, and then you're going to lower it back into the starting position. So this one, again, is just some gentle range of motion. It's not a long sustained stretch like we just did with the calf. And you're going to push it up towards the chest until you feel a little bit of resistance. Back down. You can see that Liz's body is in a nice, safe position. She's able to crawl up onto the mat, but of course we have to make sure that you guys are safe on your beds at home doing this, or we can always problem solve different positions for you to do this in at home. We'll do that about 10 times, both legs if you can. Now while the knee is up in the air, we're going to transition to hip rotation. So here, the hip and the knee they're both going to be bent at about 90 degrees, as you can see. We're placing one hand behind the knee, the other at the ankle, just like Liz has it, and we're going to rotate the leg in and out. We typically do this for at least 10 repetitions as well. So we're doing internal and then external rotation of the hip. So the knee is going to stay in place, and then the ankle is just going to be moving in and out. So you can see there, we're doing some external rotation, that's internal rotation of the hip. And again, it takes some problem solving to figure out the safest position for your bodies in this. And this is more just going through the range, it's not that sustained stretch. Unless your therapist has told you specifically that we really need to hold that stretch for a longer period of time. But usually just working through the range is helpful. Looks wonderful. So how about we transition now? We're going to straighten the leg out. And Liz is going to get herself into a good position. We're going to do some hip abduction and adduction. So sometimes we call this our snow angels, things like that. If you had a hospital bed or something at this time, that would be easier. Not everybody can get into this position. We're going to keep the knee straight and the toes are going to be towards the ceiling, and the leg's just going to move in and out from midline. We usually do this about 10 times or so. Nothing magical about 10 repetitions, but just really trying to get those repetitions in. If you can, sometimes people have increased tone in the inside of their thigh, so if you want to hold this stretch out there for about 30 seconds to a minute, you can do that as well, but just remembering to be really gentle with our movements. So now this is just another view of the same exercise, the hip abduction and adduction, going in and out kind of like a snow angel. So you can see those gentle movements, sustaining a stretch at end range if we'd like. And sometimes I find it easier to go one leg at a time, and then switching to the left leg, or maybe we can go through this whole sequence in the right leg and then the left leg. Just have to figure out what works best for your home setup. Thank you. All right, so our final leg stretch here, we're going to finish up with the hamstring stretch. So Liz is going to support the leg at the knee and the heel, and you're going to slowly raise the leg up, keeping the knee straight. This one we like to hold again for a little bit longer, at least 30 seconds, if not 60 seconds, up to a couple minutes if you want to. So you're really trying to keep that knee straight. So a lot of you might have trouble keeping the knee straight, so Liz might have to put the hand on top of the knee to make sure that, Matt, if you want to show, if you weren't quite so flexible, and if your knee was bending a little bit, we would come in there on top of the thigh to really make sure that we're getting that hamstring stretch to its fullest potential. Holding it up there, and then you can repeat it 3 to 5 times and down. And we'll try it one more time. Again, for some people, depending on the size of your legs, sometimes I will even use the leg to rest it on my shoulder if I was in Liz's place, because again, we're doing this to help you out to stretch, but we also don't want to be sweating or putting our bodies into a bad position. So Liz is doing a great job here. Nice sustained stretch. And then each time you go up, if you limber up a little bit, you might even be able to raise it a little higher. But again, safety is number 1 here. All right, thank you.